you very much for the invitation to the Global Consciousness Summit, and we are very glad, since the integrative medicine is a way of life, otherwise than just seeing patients in a holistic way. We are very glad to participate in this summit. So, first I would like to talk to you about what we consider the consciousness. The awareness manifests itself from 4 basic states. The intraphysical state that corresponds to the state of consciousness in the physical dimension, where we are today with this physical body, and what we could consider the extra-physical consciousness state that corresponds to the state of the consciousness in the extra-physical dimension. This is after having deactivated the physical body, what we call biological death, or before what we call rebirth. Then we have projective consciousness states that corresponds to the state of the consciousness that is out of the physical body. We can do this while we are asleep. Either we have awareness or not, or we can do this by our motivation, when we exercise ourselves to the energetic body goes off the physical body. And then we have what we call a continuous state of consciousness. This corresponds to the completely lucid state of consciousness in which the person perceives the whole process of separation from the bodies, the release of what we call energetical body, the release of what we call the psychosoma, that is the psychic body, and can reach the release of the mental body or mental projection. So, to manifest itself from these 4 basic consciousness states, the consciousness uses its sets of bodies, what we call holosoma. The holosoma is the human body per se, I mean the sum of all of our bodies, and we have energetic body, we have emotional body, we have a mental body, and we have a physical body. So this is what we call a physical body. And then between this body and the emotional body, more or less around us, we have the energetic body, and then the mental body. That it's more what we call the body of the when we do any kind of cognitive states, we use the mental body. So when we are awakened, these 4 bodies are in the same position. When we are in the other dimension, or when we are projected in our energetic body, or we are in the extra-physical state, there is a mismatch between these vehicles of consciousness manifestation, leading us to manifest ourselves in multiple dimensions beyond the physical dimension. So then we have to make a note about what is the consciousness and unconsciousness, and the awareness or the unconsciousness state. When we are awareness, it appears in the quantum collapse. And when we are in an unconscious state, we are operational when the consciousness is not. So this is very important in what we call the psychosomatic diseases. These diseases are being studied by the psychiatric field since about, I say 60 years ago. And we are giving it much more importance in the medicine point of view on now because of what we call the psychoneuroimmunology. Because today we have to connect the way we feel to the way our hormones are released, to the way our neurotransmitters are released, to the way that our body feels in terms of emotion. And this can or prevent us to have a disease. So this is very important. We have to also be aware that we repress memories so well that the consciousness does not collapse them, but the unconsciousness keeps these memories. So this unconsciousness thinking, they are process generating somatic effects of the illness. And we are going to have behaviors that manifest the way we think in a non-consciousness way. So this is what we call also repressive feelings, that we relegate them to the unconsciousness, and this blockage the flow of the energy. So we have to help the patients to become aware of this blockage that are responsible for the disease. So the soul, the self-intelligence, and its various forms of manifestation. It helps us to live our human body with lucidity, what we call the astral projection, but with lucidity, so that we can remember in where our emotional body was. So this is called out-of-body experience, or also astral projection. It occurs when the person has the feeling of leaving the physical body to observe the world from a different perspective. So when the astral body or soul separates from the physical body, it is able to travel in this other dimension to other realities and other dimensions. So this basic principle is that the consciousness is multi-existential. So we have a lot of forms of having lived another lives, and the current human life is only one among various existence of the consciousness. We have already lived many lives according to this science, and will live many more in the future. So when we are talking about these projections, they are the most important tool for self-proof, according to the science, as I'm speaking, that the consciousness has only one life and has intraphysical and extraphysical periods and does not die. It simply returns to the dimension from where it is natural. So it supposedly gives us the lessons. Then when we learn this, we will lose our pain, and talks about dying, and supposedly we die and we go to another dimension, and there we don't have to talk about time or space or distance again in the common sense, because these are more early phenomena. And really, it explains that nobody dies alone, because the dead is able to visit whoever he wants. Also, the people that matter to us, who leave you, who love us, supposedly are waiting for us. And also, it enlightens us that every human being since birth until his death is guided by a spiritual entity. So when we die, we say that we could be floating through a tunnel, or going through a big door, or crossing a bridge. And after we cross this, we will be surrounded by light. And the light is whiter and brighter than anything that we could ever felt in planet Earth. And we supposedly feel unconditional love, that we cannot imagine this in our way that we live here in Earth. So this unconditional love, we have not been taught by the medical school but we can use this also to treat our patients, because when we talk about love, we talk about the fourth chakra when we study the Ayurvedic medicine. And so we also know that we have electromagnetic field that some point is joined here in more or less where we have our heart in the physical body, and this creates electromagnetic field that can help other people just by this field of some frequency that we call it the 400 Hz from above, and only with this we can help clarify something about what we call integrative medicine. The integrative medicine is a medical specialty when we are talking about the United States, for instance, although in Europe we don't have it as a medical specialty. So the medical doctors who study some of the areas that the integrative medicine applies to just do it in their offices in conjunction to the conventional medicine. So when we talk about this complementary, functional, integrative medicine, we are talking about a holistic point of view. So we see the patient in a global view, not only with the physical body. I mean, if he has a headache, he has a frontal headache, or if he has a stomach pain, but also we include the emotional body, because we need to understand what is happening to this patient nowadays. How is he with his family? How is he with his work? If his mother died. So we have to include this to our questions to understand more about what he felt in terms of the physical body. And also we have to understand what is going on with this patient in the mental body to see the process that the patient makes to give him some kind of impression. So when we refer to the integrative medicine point of view, we have to understand that the disease occurs simultaneously in more than one body. And the disease can originate itself in one level and spread to other levels. And the treatment, it's not directed to a level, it is aimed to all levels. So the healing, when we talk about the healing, we talk it in a higher plane of the consciousness. Heals the lower planes, but it takes time according to the gravity of the disease and also the years that this is being held in our patient. So when we talk about the self-healing, it's part of the descending causality of consciousness. And the doctor is the patient healing partner. So we have to compromise our patients to be part of the healing process, because otherwise we cannot even think about making a true healing of what is going on with our patient. For instance, we know that Randolph Bird in 1988 made a double-blind study with the healing, with the prayer at a distance, and to explain the non-location of the consciousness. So when we talk about conscious and health, we have to give consciousness back to its place on healing. We can choose our own reality, what we want to feel, like a more lightening status, for instance, when we do meditation. And here we have to explain this because of the quantum collapse that is discontinuous and creative in the healing. And these gifts of the quantum physics to health that we can explain by a downward causality, non-location of the consciousness, a discontinuity, and the interwoven hierarchy explain about the health in the integrative medicine point of view. For instance, when we talk about the downward causality, we have to talk about the waves of possibility. When we pay attention to something, it collapses. So it's located as a spatial temporal event. And the decision or the choice of downstream causality, it's free and it's unpredictable. For instance, Fred Alan Wolf, it's an American theoretical physicist specialized in quantum in the San Diego University. He says that we choose our own reality, the way we see ourselves in health, in sickness, and with our consciousness. And health per se is not a frivolous decision, it's a responsible decision with lifestyle changes and the spiritual work and the therapeutical work in the part of the emotional body. So, for instance, when we say that in integrative medicine, when we apply to our patients to make a mind-body connection, we can call it a spiritual work, or we can call it mind-body connection. Like we try to help our patients to discover who they are. What are they doing in life? Not just being grow up, work, have children, and die. So we have to understand that the consciousness is the foundation of being, and that the material and the vitality and the mind and the supramental archetypes are the possibilities of the consciousness. So we have to choose in a non-ordinary state of consciousness, in a non-local unit and a cosmic unit. And our past experience, they tarnish our unity, our individual ego, and they are conditioned. And we cannot choose our reality from our ordinary ego. Thinking about health will not bring us health. And then we have to understand the discontinuity and the non-locality of the consciousness. For the discontinuous movement, it's explained, for instance, from Niels Bohr. It's a Danish physicist, as you know. It's jumping from one orbit to another is a quantum. Also, the non-locality of the consciousness was first talk from Albert Einstein in 1935, when the quantum collapse and outside of space-time, not local and potential. And for instance, Eugene Wigner explained that a quantum collapse as a choice of the consciousness. And the unit of the consciousness, we can choose it objectively and maintain the probabilistic anticipation. So the awareness, what we can call now that it's being in a place and be aware of where I am, it's universal. And there are no two consciousness. And this explains very much the illusionary epiphenomenal of the experience and the individually. And we can choose health over disease if we transcend the ego and we achieve the unitive consciousness. And for now, we have to talk about the non-locality and healing. So, for instance, we know that Carl Jung talked about the synchronicity, the significant coincidence attributable to a common cause. And we have the feeling of being alive in an experience that is one, but in reality, we have non-fragmented experiences. So we live more in our heads than in our bodies. So this link, this activity in different areas, the sensation of the whole, explain us how we can achieve the healing as a global and holistic point of view. And when we talk about the interlocking hierarchy, so that we can understand how the integrative medicine point of view can help us achieve health, when we look at an object that appears in the consciousness, a subject appears looking at the object. And we have a self-reference when we are experiencing the subject as experienced objects, and they collapse in the same event. So the consciousness is identified with the brain. It goes on to the experience as the subject of the experience. So because of this conceptual difficulty, it is one of nature's most undervalued principles. It's a referential unit in medicine, because the doctor, as we conventionally are used to see our medical doctors, dictates and listen. But in reality, healing is a result of this interaction. So the idea to be here and to talk to you about how the integrative medicine point of view can help contribute to each one of us being more healthy. But when we talk about healthy, we have to talk about the most important thing that we can do to ourselves, that is listening to our body, understanding our emotions, understand that each one of us has scars from this life, from our past. How was I? Was I a desired baby? Did my father want me? Did my father want a child? Did my father want a girl or a boy? Did my mother want a girl or a boy? How were the relationships between my father when I was born? And how was my family? Was it a war in my country? Did they have money to eat? Did they have a house of themselves? Were they working? So we need to ask our patients these kind of questions, and we need to think for ourselves also, so that we can clean ourselves from some scars we have from our past. How was my childhood? How was my past from 10 to 20 in my early years of adolescence? And how was my adulthood? Did I broke up a relationship? Do I have children? Did I make any abortion? Either if I'm a woman or a man, because if I'm a man and my girlfriend did an abortion, also it's part of me. So we need to understand that we as a consciousness have some points in our bodies that we are not used to talk about, but this is very important when we are treating a patient in this integrative medicine point of view. So I have to thank all the organization of the event. I hope you have enjoyed, and you can ask me anything by this email, and I hope we can see us sometimes and hug ourselves. And so I send you a kiss and a hug from Portugal. Thank you very much.